Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Overtime. Isandering should be joining us in just a moment. Um, it's an extraordinary day, and we expect it to continue to be extraordinary. We're looking at a lot of potential, uh, uh, first times. In fact, we've already had one. So for the first time ever. Oh, let me just, yeah. So for the first time ever, a woman has been elected as governor of Virginia. This flips the Virginia governor's seat from the Republican to Democrat. This is extremely important. We've been schooled by the Republicans on just how important governors are and holding governorships, as many governorships as possible. A Virginia governor was a Republican and is now their first female governor, Abigail Spanderberger. um, so that's an important change. Now, these elections, and there's a number of them that we're following, four total, are seen as a referendum on Trump's policies and his presidency so far. And if that's really to be the case, then what is happening in Virginia is a very good way to start. It's been record voting, and so far, more than 50% of the people polled at exit polls have said that Trump's administration is one of the key reasons why they are voting in this election, which is not even a midterm election. In all of these cases, these are special elections. So the turnout is usually lower in midterms and even lower in special elections. But it's a record turnout for this special election in Virginia. New Jersey is also looking to pick a governor. Mikey Sherrill is currently ahead, roughly 60-40. Mikey Sherrill is also a Democrat, but it is still too early to call that race. The New York mayor's race, Zohran Mamdani, apologies, is the favored contender. He is the Democrat. He is a socialist Democrat, or Democratic Socialist, I should say, and would be both the first socialist mayor of New York and the first Muslim mayor of New York. He also is an immigrant. He was born in Uganda. So he has a lot of the what I find most interesting about him is he has sort of the flavoring of the Democratic Party. If you think about it, he's an immigrant. He's uh, has some what what for many Americans would be considered radical leftist. For Europe, it's just sort of left leaning views, and he's a Muslim, and I like the idea of New York electing a Muslim as mayor. It's one of the many stages of coming to terms with 9/11. We also have California Proposition 50, which we've talked about before. It is uh, really Newsom's most important and biggest policy attempt so far. It is his plan, and it's what has put Newsome as a governor on the map on the national stage, which is to redraw the California congressional map to add five Democratic seats. This in a deliberate attempt to win more seats for Democrats in the House after Texas's deliberate attempt to add more Republican seats to the House. This was his much promised response to Texas, and we will see if it is successful. It is probably the single most important race. Mamdani is, I think, important. I think it speaks to where we're going, and his success or failure, I think, is going to speak to how much respect immigrants and people of minority religions in the United States are treated. And so far, he's run actually a very good campaign. So the hope is that his administration will reflect that. Proposition 50 being the most important is the one we'd most want to break with. Having said that, polls don't close there till 8 p.m. their time. That's 11 p.m. our time, and they are not expecting to get results from that for at least 2 or 3 hours. So that would be 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning. We may or may not go breaking with that, depending, but there's no way we're going to cover that during this particular show right now. There's a lot more interesting news. One of them is the passing of a major hurdle for Saudi Arabia. They are attempting to purchase F-35 jets from the United States, and just today cleared a key Pentagon hurdle in that purchase. Now, this is important for a number of reasons, and that it happened today is very interesting. I've put in the Discord several New York Times articles, and when I say the articles, I put the articles because these articles are from before the internet, so they are a capture of the actual article. What a lot of people are not aware of, I voted for Bill Clinton. I was a fan of Bill Clinton, but having said that, he doesn't get as much credit for the economy of the 90s as, or he gets more credit for it than he should. The reason is it was actually his predecessor, Bush, who got most of the things done that helped with that economy. What helped with that economy was cheap oil. How did he get cheap oil? Dick Cheney at the time was the Secretary of Defense under George H.W. Bush, and negotiated in 1990 a deal with Saudi Arabia for, at the time, it was the biggest arms deal in history. It started, I think, at 11 billion and worked to 28 billion. In fact, let me go to the Discord and read it. It is on our Discord, which of course I can never find because I have 16 windows open. It's in the just so that and this is we have here various whatever information people want. So let's see. U.S. to sell 20 billion in arms in largest deal in history. Quote, this could be called the Defense Industry Relief Act of 1990. That's how much we were selling to arms in Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi Arabia was known at the time to be a dictatorship. We had overthrown dictatorships in the past and said, we don't support or like dictatorships. And here we were selling them all this money. Why? Because they were willing to give us OPEC veto power, which is to say, and not give us the exclusive power, but they would give us favorable gasoline. In fact, we had the cheapest price for gasoline for 30 years of any country in the world that isn't an OPEC country. It's certainly all of Europe. The way we had that was every time OPEC talked about upping their prices for the United States, Saudi Arabia, not every time, but most of the time, would veto it. They'd get called out by their partners as vetoing it explicitly because they were getting arms from the United States, and they would say, no, we just don't think you should raise prices on Americans. Now, they have a brutal dictatorial regime. They murdered the Washington Post correspondent Khashoggi a while back. They used the Pegasus software, which why on earth Israel would give them that, I've got no idea. But that was Dick Cheney, who, by the way, died yesterday at the age of, I believe it was 89. We'll get to that in a minute, too. But it's a lot of stuff sort of all tied together going on. The idea that we're now going to sell them F-35s is pretty stunning. And the citizens of Saudi Arabia have been trying to overthrow their dictatorial government for a long time. Why have they failed? Because their government has U.S.-produced tanks, guns, and airplanes, making it virtually impossible for them to successfully overthrow the royal house of Saud. So we are continuing in our tradition of supporting dictatorial regimes by giving them the guns and weapons that they need. And their people are continuing their history of literally hating us for it. How much do they hate us for it? They hate us so much that one of the most richest and powerful families in Saudi Arabia, the Bin Ladens, who were close personal friends of the royal house of Saud and the king and prince of Saudi Arabia, had a son named Osama who, believe it or not, said this shouldn't be happening. He was a revolutionary. He wanted to overthrow the royal house of Saud and saw as one of the biggest obstacles to that the United States of America, and targeted us and targeted civilians in large part to make a point. In fact, of all of the hijackers, 19 hijackers, 15 were from Saudi Arabia. There's a reason for that, and there's a reason that that was covered up, because the money that we get from cheap oil from Saudi Arabia's OPEC veto power was considered to be more important than talking about who really attacked us and why. And by the way, it was not Saudi Arabia who attacked us. Saudi Arabia was terrified of the fact we were attacked and is an ally. But their citizens despise us. So you will see those articles about the original deal and what appears to be the continuing of the deal by sending our F-35s, the most powerful, and they're not engaging in wars in anybody. This is to oppress their own people. This is what they use it for. And it's explained that way. They knew that in the 1990s. They knew that in the 90s. So those New York articles are on our Discord, New York Times articles. Again, it's an actual clip from the articles because they weren't published on the internet. Let's see. I don't think Azandrian has shown up yet. See, it looks like the Cincinnati mayoral election has been called, and the New Jersey race has been called. So New Jersey has been called for Mikey Sherrill, and the New Jersey race has been called for the Democrat Aftab Pueval. Now, keep in mind that both of those are Democrats, so we have two more Democratic wins. Again, this is seen as a referendum on Trump and his administration. We are seeing record votes in all of these elections, and if these votes, the turnout is everything in an election. And I used to work as a political operative, and I remember I would be asked by volunteers, I only have a day or two, which day would you like me to volunteer? The answer is always the same. You give them the same answer no matter where you are in the campaign cycle. Election day. Election day. I want you to drive people to the polls. I want you to get people. I want you knocking on doors. Have you voted yet? Have you voted yet? Have you voted yet? You can preach to the choir all you like. If they don't sing, what's the point? Well, I have a choir. So we have now several, and we are looking at the New York race. In New York, they have the numbers are starting to come in now. Zohran Mamdani is at 51%, Cuomo is at 37%, and Silawala is at 8%. Silawala has always been seen as a long shot candidate. He has been the Republican candidate. I remember him from basically high school. He had started the Guardian Angels. It was a vigilante group that was going around, presumably cleaning up crime, but if they ever did anything, I don't know about it, and I'm not a big fan of people who think they're Batman. But he's always been rather questionable in my book from what I remember of him, and I can't believe he's still around. Cuomo was actually a very popular New York mayor until the sexual misconduct allegations against him, which struck me as extraordinarily serious and well-deserved. Unfortunately, I liked him. So, but having said that, he is now back and trying to rehabilitate his image, and Mamdani is at 51%. Zandering, welcome to the show. How are you?
I could finally get through. You'd think that Oklahoma would have better internet or something to allow me to get through.
They knew you were coming to a liberal show, and they just said...
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what it was.
So in Georgia, let's see, the Public Service Commissioner, special general election, and the DDHQ, I don't know what that stands for, but both have flipped from Republican to Democrat. So this is once again, and we've talked about this before. The reason I think Prop 50 is so utterly important is because right now Trump is getting his agenda passed at will, because Congress is not invoking any of their powers or defending any of those powers or responsibilities. The power of the purse they've handed to Trump. This was never supposed to happen. He is essentially using a line item veto, shutting down entire swaths of the government he doesn't like by fiat, just saying no money. I'm not sending you the money. Boom, they're gone. And Congress can and should be stopping this, and is just saying, if that's what he wants, that's what he wants. That would change if the Congress, if the House, most importantly, were held by Democrats. That's why Texas Governor was so intent on making sure the House doesn't flip by getting the extra seats, and that's why Prop 50 is attempting to reverse that by getting those seats back. I don't know if two wrongs make a right, but that's the theory there. Any thoughts on Prop 50 before we go on to the next? We've covered, I don't know if you were able to hear the show, so we've covered, there's a new F-35 deal with Saudi Arabia. We will be selling them F-35s, and, hey, I'm glad when our country can make money, but selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, while very beneficial to the economy in the 90s, was also a huge part, was actually an instrumental part in Osama bin Laden being able to build a case against America with disgruntled Saudis, and why 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. They weren't from countries which is an ally of ours, ostensibly, but the civilians aren't. It's a dictatorial regime. So any thoughts on either the F-35 weapon deal or anything else that we've covered so far?
Yeah, because selling arms to Saudi Arabia has worked out so well for us in the past. I'm not entirely sure we should be doing that. And I have the same kind of feeling, does two wrongs make a right? And do the ends actually justify the means? Because, we run into that problem of consequences again, and I want to be able to stand just on straight up principle. But that principle also comes with actions that have real world consequences. I want to say that Prop 50 is an absolutely terrible idea. I am not a fan of gerrymandering districts. I actually believe that districts really probably should be done by a bipartisan independent group. But again, Texas is already redistrict, and the real consequences of that are you get more Republican House seats than Democrat House seats. And I don't really trust Trump as a president. God, I say that like there's some things I trust him. I don't trust Trump at all.
I was sitting there going, somebody's going to go, what do you like about him?
I like that he gives lots of fodder for entertainment, I guess.
Yeah.
On the not so serious things. It's also I like that it gives me an opportunity to go, this is exactly what we should be standing up against, and you guys are free. Actually, that's frustrating. You guys are supporting and cheering and going, yay, and I'm like, wait a minute, did none of the principles of conservatism matter to you at all? You know, it's like you want Trump to do all of this stuff. You realize that at some point a Democrat will be in power and they're going to do all of this same stuff, and you're going to whine and cry and yell and scream. And I'm like, I warned you. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have supported this. I find it very frustrating. But then, like I said, on the flip side of that, consequences. You know, it's like, do we let Texas just more or less get away with this and change the landscape of the House of Representatives? Or do we do something to stand up and try and check some of that? And I don't like when we get stuck into violating principles because of the consequences. We're kind of backed into a corner saying we don't have very much choice here. The other side is doing this, and if we don't, we're just going to lose. And I hate now that I'm like supporting the Democratic side of things. So yeah, I'm angry all the way around about the situations that I'm being constantly put in, where I'm like, I should not be the one that is agreeing with this. I should not be the one that is opposing this. And yet I am, because I actually cared about our Constitution and our Republic. And I absolutely hate what's happening to it. And I don't see a way to really fix it. So I'm not sure if it's going to matter if it goes through or not. I do know that I've been in California a lot recently. There are signs all over the place saying no to Prop 50. I have yet to see any political signage in favor of Prop 50 in California.
It's interesting. Southern California or Northern California?
Central,
okay.
south of Sacramento, around Lathrop, and I'm running between Bakersfield and Sacramento, and just east of Silicon Valley.
Well, in terms of wonderful, interesting, delightful things to entertain us from the other side, Greg Abbott has said today that he is going to impose a, quote, 100% tariff on New Yorkers moving to Texas. I am not sure whether that was, and most people are treating it like it's real. Newsweek is reporting it as if he means that. He's pissed about New York. He's pissed about their voting habits, and I'll get to that in a sec. The Decision Desk HQ is in New York is projecting now Zohran Mamdani will win the mayor's race in New York. This makes him a couple of things. It makes him the first Muslim ever to win the mayorship in New York City. It also makes him the first Democrat Socialist to win in New York. So congratulations to him. He was born in Uganda. He has dual citizenship in the United States. He is an American citizen, and is now projected to win in New York City. I think the fact this gets back to, I mean, New York electing a Muslim, first of all, I think is a big deal. Because Muslims as a whole were blamed for 9/11. That was not correctly, that was not correct, but that was done by a lot of people for, it was the easiest target and the closest associated. But at any rate, the fact that they have voted him in, and a Democratic Socialist. It's got the word Democrat in there, but it also has the word Socialist in there. In the United States, I think is, again, a repudiation of people are very upset with the Trump administration. This, by the way, today has one other, we have 3 or 4 other pieces of worthwhile news to cover today. We haven't gotten to the plane crash and explosion. We haven't gotten to, we've got a lot to get to. Record withdrawals coming out of the Fed. But today ties the number of days for a largest government shutdown in U.S. history. When you wake up tomorrow, we will be in the longest shutdown in history. Today we are tied. Tomorrow we will break the record. Anyways, is there any thoughts?
Got to hand it to Trump breaking his own records in all ways.
Yeah, he's got the first and second. He's the most impeached president in history. He's the president with the most felonies in history, surpassing the total number of felonies of all other presidents, both before and after office combined. So by quite some margin.
Achievement after achievement.
Yes. I'm so tired of winning. He's right.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of winning. I'm tired of setting all these records. It's like it's got to stop at some point. I'm actually happy that Mamdani won. Mamdani?
No, you had to write the first. Mamdani.
Okay. Mamdani. I was rooting for him. I was like, go. Well, one, because it's a hell of a shakeup over the status quo.
Yes.
And at this point, I'm like, let's go any other direction other than the one we're going in. It's like you got a 50-50 chance of making it better. I guess the reverse is true. You have a 50-50 chance of just destroying everything too. Well, maybe not. I shouldn't say 50-50 chance. It's like we're going this direction. We can either turn left or right. And I don't mean that in political means. I mean, we're going forward. You can make a left or you can make a right. And you don't really know. I mean, you can guess, what different policies may lead you towards. And there's a cliff out there somewhere. And all we know is we are going in the general direction of the cliff. So if you turn left, maybe it only extends, the time you reach to the cliff by a little bit, and you'd have to turn right to avoid it all entirely. I don't know, but I do know that we're going in the wrong direction. So starting to get stuff that is not the status quo, that is a genuine change, I want to see. Also, I want to see him implement those the policies that he claims that he is advocating for. I shouldn't say claims, the policies he is advocating for.
That he claims he can implement. That I think is yes.
Yes, I want to see him, one, see if he can actually get them implemented. Two, how he's going to manage them. How is that administration will manage those policy changes, and I want to see the results from them. This was the idea behind all of the states and how the United States was originally put together. Was each individual state, notwithstanding Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, which the U.S. government, the United States, would guarantee a Republican form of government, which shockingly Trump has not caught on to yet, probably because he's never read the Constitution. Because if he'd actually read the Constitution, I'm sure he would have jumped on that. The United States shall ensure a Republican form of government. I'm shocked that he has not jumped on that to try and strip all Democratic states of their governments, claiming that you can't have a Democratic government because the Constitution says right here that the government will ensure a Republican form of government. And
interrupt real quick.
Take that
Sinister Porpoise asks a very important question. Are you sure that Trump can read?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But somebody in his administration certainly can. And the fact that they have not read this to him and he went, well, right there, says it, plain as day, Republican forms of government. All you
Good point.
Democrat states are invalid and null, and we're going to kick you out and instill Republicans in your place.
Don't
I'm
give them
kind of
the
shocked.
idea. Don't give them
So,
the idea.
yeah, so that the states were supposed to be little experiments in democracy, and different states could implement different. They have much broader latitude to be involved in the governance of their states. Obviously, they can do more things than the federal government was supposed to be able to do originally. I question whether that's actually true today, but you would be able to look around and see what kinds of policies were working well. Also, the United States is plenty large enough that one set of policy prescriptions is not going to work everywhere in the country. Having the flexibility to be able to change your policies or adapt your policies for your populations in your areas from the deal with the problems that you're dealing with is incredibly advantageous. So I want to see if he can actually implement these things, how he implements them, and then what are the results? I mean, I know historically what some of the results of some of the policies that he's espousing, such as rent control, rent freezes, etc., has always, throughout all of history, ended up in shortages. But maybe there's some way, because inevitably somebody will say, well, true socialism has never been tried. I'm hoping to see if he can succeed in doing this and what the outcomes are. And then perhaps maybe the rest of the world or rest of the United States, because I'm sure the rest of the world probably doesn't really give a crap. The rest of the United States can see the effects of some of these things. And perhaps some of them may work better. But again, I am sick and tired of the status quo, because the status quo is going to run the United States right off a cliff. There's going to be some serious problems in the future of the United States. I would prefer to avoid that if we can. So at this point, I'm willing to say, hey, try just about anything other than what we're doing. It's kind of like when somebody's suffering from depression and they're like, well, what do I do? It's like, well, you're going to have to start changing what you do. Hell, get up on the other side of the bed every morning, because it certainly can't hurt and it might actually help. What we're doing is not working and it needs to change. So that was why I was hoping and rooting for Mamdani to win. Why do I have a problem with that name? It just does not roll off the tongue.
It does not, and I've had more than I should too. So I'm right there with you. Greg Abbott was so incensed that a socialist was running for mayor of New York and had a chance of winning, that he has said that he would, quote, impose a 100% tariff on New Yorkers who moved to Texas. Now, this was considered serious enough that Newsweek actually ran the article. And again, today, this happened today. Now, Newsweek points out that there's no either constitutional right to tariff people. You can tariff goods, but you can't tariff people. So there appears to be no mechanism for him to do this. A few people in the status quo say no to the status quo. That's good. I like that one. There's no mechanism by which you could actually tariff a person. And so a lot of people think he's joking. Some people think he's stupid enough to actually think it's doable. And there's a big argument on the Twitter thread over whether or not he's going to do this and why the hell would he care. It's big enough that Newsweek is covering it, and Newsweek is talking about what other people are saying. New York Governor Kathy Hochul's press office wrote in response, "No thanks, we're good."
Hey, there's one where I get to correct you. It's not Hochul, it's Hochul.
Hochul. Oh, thank you very much. Political commentator.
See, that one actually kind of rolls off the tongue. Just don't read it.
Yeah. It's the reading it that's Political commentator Ed Krasenstein wrote This is illegal. MAGA has become the party of violating the Constitution. Valentina Gomez, a Republican congressional candidate in Texas, said, Greg, focus on lowering property taxes first. Hardworking people are losing their homes because of this. Guthner Eagleman wrote, good, now we can abolish property taxes. Good, now abolish property taxes for us that already live here. And I think those are all excellent points. My concern is they're missing the obvious, and I think that I'm just going to say this once and we're going to move on. Mr. Governor, with all due respect, they're moving to Texas. Don't you think you've done enough damage to them? If you have to move to Texas, that's it. You shouldn't be penalized anymore. You've suffered enough in life. That's my view. So, we are selling F-35s to Saudi Arabia. Oh, yes. I'm going to quickly go. We destroyed another boat. I believe it was today. 3 killed. Venezuela appears to believe it is about to be attacked. The president of Venezuela has been handing out rifles and asking that the rifles be stowed and hidden in various places throughout Venezuela, and is also asking people to go to the mountains and the woods to prepare for a guerrilla campaign against the invading U.S. Whether or not the U.S. is going to invade, I don't know. I had assumed not, because I figured we probably, as stupid as Trump is, he can't be that stupid to start basically a Vietnam War on his. I mean, really.
You better shut your mouth.
Yeah, I know. Venezuela.
On the positive side, I mean, hey, I didn't know I was going to have to go to Venezuela to actually be able to see a proper representation of the Second Amendment.
Yeah, thank God, I know. Oh my God, he's well, and here's the other thing, which is the president is a dictator, and saying we're going to be invaded is a great way to motivate your political friends and to get your political enemies to sit down and shut up, because nothing brings people together faster than a joint enemy who's going to kill all of you. So I tend to believe that that he actually believes this, that it's not just propaganda to try and unify people under his strong leadership or to get his opposition to shut up. And the reason is they're handing out weapons. You don't do that as a dictator. As a matter of fact, you should go the opposite direction as a dictator, or you're not going to be a dictator for long. That's very true, and that's amazing too, because we've had that discussion now about how when Trump will start coming for the weapons that the Republicans have, the pro-Second Amendment, he's going to start doing it because he has to. It's the only way what he's attempting can work. And I'm just sitting there going like, oh my God, if we end up relying on the Second Amendment for precisely all the things that some Second Amendment nut job, right wing whatevers that I've met, as Andrew, you don't know any of them. I'm like, if that ends up,
you're right.
like,
I don't.
Wow.
I don't know any of them.
Well, you see one every day.
Would that not just that? Oh, that would have to.
That would stick in my craw just a little bit. You'd probably have to be banned from the show, because even though you wouldn't mention it, it would be one of those, like, you'd find a way to sneak it in there. You'd be like, oh, I wonder what this does. And you know what it means, and I know what it means. Nobody else, and you just totally derail the show.
Hey, and you know what? I'll bet there are some people in our audience that do know what that means. And you want to know why they know? Because you went and opened your mouth and told them all.
I did, didn't I? Well, I'm a verbal processor.
I was willing to let it slide as an inside joke. You would get it. You'd have that brief little, you smug little bastard. And we would move on. It could be my little dig at you while we're on air, and I would laugh because, nobody really knew what we were talking about, but I knew you did.
Yep.
So yes, while I might slide some little comments in there that would be innocuous enough, the live chat probably wouldn't even really catch on, or they would think that, okay, well, that's fine. You wouldn't be able to keep your mouth shut though, and you'd have to explain how I'm making a dig at you.
The reason I'm on YouTube is because I can't keep my mouth shut. If I could keep my mouth shut, I could choose to do this or not. But because I can't keep my mouth shut, this is basically the only medium under which I'm employable. Yeah, no, you're right. I was just like, I have to explain it. I have to explain things. That's just what I do. So I did want to point out that I think you've got a very, very good point, and it's dictators never pass out guns for exactly that reason. So I tend to agree with you. He thinks he's going to be invaded, but I wanted to point out that there was at least the possibility that he's trying to do. It's an unlikely possibility for all the reasons that you pointed out. So thank you for pointing that out. But in the interest of trying to get people as informed as possible, all we know is he appears to believe that he's going to be invaded. We don't know that he's going to be invaded or not. Trump has said he's not going to be invaded. That means absolutely nothing to anyone. It doesn't look like we have the troops there to invade. We're going to attack. That I have zero doubt in my mind. But the guns aren't going to do them any good in the attacks that are coming.
We have the logistics to be able to fairly easily launch attacks against Venezuela. They're directly in our backyard. There's not a massive logistical undertaking to do that. If we were going to invade them, however, that would take quite a logistical rearrangement of things. So we need to start watching for personnel transfers, build up of naval fleets, Air Force sorties to different areas. You would be able to tell if we were going to, or if we were at least setting up to invade them. We don't have nearly the personnel in the places they would need to be to justify any kind of invasion, and it doesn't appear that I have not been able to find any evidence that such mobilizations are happening. But we can absolutely attack without invading.
Yep.
Perhaps, maybe, if he does invade, or not invade, but if he does attack, which I think would be really dumb, and unwarranted and unjustified. I hope that he at least learns from the Bush administration into not dropping all of our troops in there to try and hold and maintain and instill a democracy and nation build Venezuela. So all bad, shouldn't do it at all. If he does attack, don't invade, don't put boots on the ground, take out the targets you're taking out and be done.
Yep.
But Trump is not well known. I should rephrase. Rational people do not know Trump for making rational decisions.
Yes. Well put. We have one other piece of news. We were going to go to breaking with this earlier and didn't. It's quite serious. It also dovetails into one or two other pieces of breaking that we do need to cover, or just news for the day. But an airplane shortly after takeoff, and when I say shortly, it looks like it was just whatever happened while it was on the runway taking off outside of Louisville, Kentucky, veered off the runway and crashed. It had, we believe, 3 people on board. It was a UPS truck. It was, UPS plane, and the damage that it has caused has actually turned out to be quite catastrophic. This is the fire as seen from the air. The reason, of course, was it had so much fuel on board. It had literally taken off, was just off the runway. There is a side photo of it. Looks like the plane's wing dipped, and if you take a look at, you can actually let's see if you can see there's scarring. There's a line on so the building on the far right that's completely intact. You can see there's a line running across that building. That's actually made by a wing. It looks like the wing had tilted so far and dipped, it just completely tore through the roof before the plane crashed. I think there's another image. Let's see if we've got that one here. Yep, there it is. Actually, no, that's not. That could also be the landing gear. So correction, apologies for that. That could be the landing gear, but obviously some part of the plane. We have footage that is purported to be taken as the plane was taking off. It looks like an engine fire, but an engine fire is actually very easy to put out. It's bigger than an engine fire. I don't know if Xander can tell what that is, but
No, it looks like the engine's on fire.
yeah, I mean, the way you put out an engine fire, it's the last thing you want to do, but you hit one button and it cuts all the fuel to all the engines. Good news, if there's any fire in any engine, it's going to go out pretty quick, because without the fuel, there's nothing in there that they're really going to burn on. Bad news is you've just lost all your engines. So I don't know how or why they didn't put out the fire, but that fire should have been able to be put out by the pilot. At any rate, Louisville has closed its airport at a minimum until tomorrow, 9 a.m., while they investigate. Meanwhile, we are continuing into what will tomorrow be the single longest shutdown in U.S. history, government shutdown. A couple of interesting things about this shutdown. First was the elimination of the SNAP benefits. SNAP benefits continued until the USAID ran out of money, and Trump barred them from tapping into their funding, their emergency funding, which has been done in the past to cover during shutdowns. This went to court, and a judge said that he was required to tap into those funds. He has now said that he will fund SNAP at 50%. One of the problems is it looks like he's going to do what we said he was probably going to do, which is he's going to require all of the states. So the SNAP program is a federal program that is administrated by the states. So the states administrate it, but they take their marching orders from the federal government, and they get their money from the federal government. It looks like what he's going to do is say, okay, these are the new SNAP benefit levels. And obviously, if the levels are different, the calculations for who is eligible for what have to change. So it looks like the USAID is going to recalculate the SNAP benefits levels for every person on SNAP. That would be 47 million people. If they were fully funded and attempted to undergo that process, and nothing else but that process, it would take an estimated 4 to 6 months to recalculate every person's every person's eligibility based on a percentage of whatever it was that they had been originally on. So either way, by doing instead of, first of all, he has enough money to do more than half. He has enough money to do a minimum of 66%. But instead of doing the 66% for a month, he could do 3 weeks at 100%. Everybody would get their benefits right away, and there'd have to be no recalculation. So what he's doing is slow walking the aid that people are going to get. This ostensibly to make people even more upset. And purportedly blame Democrats. We're going to have Speaker Johnson and his talk about that. But Donald Trump today, I think it was today, today, in discussing the SNAP benefits, which, by the way, that money has not yet gone out. We don't know, and he said he's going to fund it 50%. The money's not there yet. We do know that there's at least $11 billion that he has in tariff money that he could send that he is also not sending. So he could easily fund this 100%. He's deliberately not doing it. SNAP benefits, which have increased by billions and billions, manyfold during crooked Biden's disastrous term, will be given only when the radical left Democrats open the government, which they can easily do. So actually, this is now saying, okay, so he told the papers, or at least the press secretary told the papers, that they would be giving out the full SNAP benefits. This seems to be suggesting that as of today, he's not going to, because of the rampant corruption. Now, this is the rampant corruption that he's talking about. This is from the USAID's website. Supplemental nutritional assistance programs, average monthly participation, and inflated adjustment annual program spending for fiscal year. Now, you will note that it goes up and down, and one of the things that has been noticed about this project is that it costs more when the economy suffers. So as the economy is doing poorly, the numbers go up. This makes sense because there are more people who are going to need SNAP assistance. As the economy gets better, as things do better, the cost goes down. But if you take a look at the last 4 years, you can see that the spending has gone up, but not billionfold, and participation has gone up less. But this is still, not even close to what he's been talking about. And one of the reasons that the spending has to go up is because as the economy does poorly, and as inflation goes up, you need to spend more money to compensate for the higher price of goods. This is because the programs are benefits and means tested. The program provides assistance to more low-income housing during an economic downturn and recession, and to fewer households during economic expansion. Historically, SNAP spending and participation rate tend to track the unemployment rate and the poverty rate. And you can see here, times of recession, the unemployment rate, the poverty rate, SNAP participation rate, food insecurity rate. And it's got very little to do with misappropriation of funds, as Trump, for whatever reason, seems to be suggesting. Meanwhile, and now is this about SNAP or is this, I think this is actually the one about, yeah, he pivots to SNAP on this one. I wanted to say about the, oh yes, the head of, I've forgotten his name, it's a cabinet level position. He's the head of the flight, aerospace. I'll look it up in a second.
The FAA?
It's not the FAA, actually.
Aviation Administration? No?
He's not that. No, he's the head of. You know what? Now that I've gone this far, I'm going to have to.
Secretary of Transportation?
That might be it.
That's the cabinet level.
Sean, Transportation Secretary, the Secretary of Transportation, Sean Duffy, has said that by this time next week he will have to close significant swaths of airspace over the U.S. due to lack of air traffic controllers. The reason he's running out of air traffic controllers is because they're required to continue working despite the fact that they're not getting paid. They're essential workers. Well, the problem is if you're an air traffic controller, you need to get paid. If you're anybody, you need to get paid. And now that SNAP's gone, you can't pay them on SNAP, which is an irony. Oh my God. So if you've got a family, you need to find a way to feed them, and air traffic controllers would like to quit and go take another job that will pay them. The problem is they're not allowed to during a crisis like this. They're forced to continue working without pay. So what they've been doing is calling in sick. So many have been calling in sick and then working somewhere else for the money. So many have been calling in sick that there have been delays and cancellations across the country. It is reaching a point where there are so few traffic controllers they will have to shut down huge swaths of airspace over the United States because there's no controller, there isn't sufficient controllers to manage that airspace. So that is how long this thing has been going. We don't see any significant, like I said, the last report I saw, Trump had promised to fund SNAP 50%, but it looked like he was going to force the recalculation, which means people are going to start getting their SNAP benefits over the course of the next 4 to 6 months. And unless your state is making up the difference, you'd only be getting 50% of your SNAP benefits. Yes, what I'm seeing is in New York and almost every election that I've seen so far, record turnouts and all for the Dems side, which is a staggering indictment, and Johnson should listen to it. I doubt he will. Anyways, any final thoughts before we go to Marjorie Taylor Greene and her contribution on the shutdown and the Democrats and where she stands in the Republican Party? Because that's cray-cray.
Oh, yeah, we got time to go all Shiva on this. One, why? I suppose I should explain that with the many hands, because there's going to be on the other hand.
Yep. Okay.
No, this isn't a Randy Travis song. There isn't a golden band. It's like, why are air traffic controllers a federal thing? Why are they being paid by the government? On the other hand, if they are going to be employed by the government and there's a government shutdown, we probably shouldn't be paying, because, well, the government is shut down. And if you don't want this to become a routine common thing, then the people need to recognize consequences for this and really get after and get motivated to get on their representatives to stop this madness. Again, we start running. But on the other hand, real consequences. This hurts real people. I think it's a bit of a travesty that Congress continues to get paid. So yeah, there's so many. I'm not entirely. And if you are going to pay, FA air traffic controllers federally, and you recognize the reality of the situation is governments do have shutdowns, and this is kind of a very important position to make sure it remains filled. You would think that there would be a fund or a law to continue paying, these workers even during a shutdown, so that you don't have a massive kerfluffle that we seem to be going straight towards. It's like there on no matter which way you look at it, it's like just all bad. I mean, I wish I could call it a shit sandwich, but you have to have at least one other different ingredient in order for it to be even remotely considered a sandwich. Maybe you could call it a shit hot dog, but everywhere you go, it's the same. It's like, no matter which way you look at this is insane.
All right, we've got actually, yep.
We've literally tipped off into insanity world. It's like, I swear to God, maybe Atlas 31, when it went whizzing by or before on its way, had sent a shock wave and it shifted us slightly into alternate Earth, where everything is just crazy and doesn't make sense because it's non-rational world. I don't know. None of this seems to make sense.
Yeah, when it comes to Marjorie Taylor Greene, it gets even more so. We'll get to her in a minute. So for the governor's races, there are 2 races. We have both of them are now in. Abigail Spanberger has won in Virginia, and somebody had suggested earlier that is she a Muslim? I was not aware of that, if she was. But she is the first female governor of Virginia. We have also, let's see, Mikey Sherrill. No, she is not. No, she is not. Yeah, somebody had. So yeah, okay, I was getting trolled. Mikey Sherrill.
I'm pretty sure it was the vice governor.
Oh, the vice governor. Okay, thank you for that. And then in New Jersey, Mike Sherrill won. Now the Virginia is a flip. It's a seat flip. It's a Republican has flipped to a Democrat. So and then in Minneapolis, let's start with New York. Zohran Mamdani has won with 49% of the vote. Now, that's one of the more interesting ones. He's the Democratic Socialist. He's also he's the first socialist. He's running on the Democratic ticket, but he's the first socialist and first Muslim ever elected to mayor in New York. Andrew Cuomo, the former mayor who was ousted, I should say, for sexual misconduct, still has a healthy percentage of the vote, 41%, but he will lose. Corey O'Connor has won for mayor in Pittsburgh by a huge majority, trouncing the Republican Republican. Let's see, 47 to 12. 47 to 12. So then let's see. Andre Dickens, who is an independent, has won Atlanta, the mayoral race. He was running against and he was the incumbent. He was already mayor, so he has defended his seat by another whopping 85 to 6. Healthy odds. Buffalo mayor looks like, let's see, they haven't called that one, but Sean Ryan, the Democrat, is ahead by a significant amount right now, 77 to 20. So we'll see. But so far, where it's been a Democrat versus a Republican, the Democrats have all won. Interestingly,
but it's a close race. Just ask the Republican or the MAGA people. It's all been pretty close, and there's a lot of all of these places are in areas where they don't check for ID, and have mail-in voting and all of this stuff. Yeah.
Yep. So Buffalo is still too close to call. In Cincinnati, the incumbent, who was nonpartisan, has defended their seat. 80 to 20. That's Aftab Pureval defended against Corey Bowman, so that seat remains unchanged, but that's an independent. Another independent is Detroit Mayor. Mary Sheffield has won 78% to 21%. Again, independent, and did not beat out anybody that was on the Democratic ticket that I'm aware of. New Jersey is still too close to call. Minneapolis is also still too close to call. And that's the mayoral races. As for the ballot measures, let's see. It's an impeachment in Pennsylvania against Justice Doherty on the Supreme Court. Prop 50, we don't know yet. We're not going to know that one for a while. Let's see, Colorado Proposition MM. I don't even know what that is. I was too busy reading up on the what is it? Central bank. Main question 1, also too close to call. Main question 2, too close to call. Texas Prop 15, too close to call. Texas Prop 16, too close to call. Lieutenant Governor, yep, that was it. Virginia Lieutenant Governor, you called it. Ghazala Hashmi, who has flipped. So that is another Republican seat that has gone now to a Democrat and I believe a female Muslim. Virginia Attorney General has flipped from a Republican to Jay Jones, a Democrat. I think everything else is too close to call. There's a number of impeachments, but in every case where it was a Democrat versus a Republican, the Democrat has won in every single case, and in slightly less than half the cases, it was a flip. So they successfully flipped the seats. So we're not going to know about Prop 20, and I do want to know about the other propositions. We did, and I want to thank in particular. This is one of the things we try to do is look at the news. We cover things that, well, we cover some things that everybody's covering, and then we cover things that we think are slipping through. Pegasus is one that we've been following for a very long time, and I think it's the most important and dangerous piece of software ever invented by mankind, and it's hardly ever covered, and now appears to be owned by the U.S. But there was another very interesting piece of news that, and this was. I think I want to just point out I was very proud. I saw this, and Bregwin had just dropped this into the Discord, and no comment, nothing, just dropped it right into the breaking section of the Discord. And you have to know. Actually, I should point out Pegasus. Yeah, I should. If I'm going to mention Pegasus, we haven't mentioned it in a while. Pegasus is a phone hacking software made by the Israelis, an Israeli firm. Made it, Mossad made it. Presumably it wasn't going out to anyone who wasn't approved by the defense secretary for the Israelis. It was capable of hacking absolutely any phone, turning on the GPS, turning on the microphone, turning on the camera, and doing all so without notifying the user that it was on. There is a nonprofit organization was tipped off to a list of 5,000 phone numbers that purportedly had the Pegasus software installed on it. The people included journalists, prime ministers, diplomats, revolutionaries, all sorts of people. Also included was Khashoggi, and his phone was investigated, and it turned out that he, in fact, did have the Pegasus software on his phone, as did his girlfriend, as did the person investigating Khashoggi's death in Saudi Arabia. Now, this is important because Khashoggi was murdered by the Royal House of Saud, and nobody knew how they found him. And it looks like they used the Pegasus software to track down his location by turning on his phone's GPS without his knowledge, reading the information, and then he just knew where he was. It also appears that they had turned on the microphone of his girlfriend's phone so they could listen in just while he and her were talking to each other. It's extraordinarily dangerous software. The U.S. has purchased the company that created Pegasus. If you look for the words Pegasus in any of our previous shows, you'll see we've been following this software for quite some time. The Israeli government acknowledged the Pegasus existed, acknowledged what it could do, but said they had only licensed it to a few countries. A number of countries denied having it, including the U.S. Mexico actually admitted to having it, and it had been used to apparently to track down and murder a Mexican journalist in the hands of the right people, quote, presumably, and for them it was a tool too. And the fact that this hasn't been more covered by the mainstream media, but Pegasus has now morphed into another piece of software. It's evolved, and they have this complete surveillance package that is extraordinarily dangerous. At any rate, that's Pegasus. We've been following it for a little while, but Bregwin just dropped this. Banks tap Fed standing repo facility in record numbers amid month-end pressures. No explanation, just drops it. And I'm just sitting there going like, uh-oh. And this is the kind of, I think this was a very nice find, because it's the kind of thing that people don't think about or understand and realize what it means. And I'm like, that's really huge. And that's important. What it is saying is that as of, actually this was from a couple days ago, what they, at the end of October, a number of banks were tapping the Federal Reserve for money in record numbers. Now, the Federal Reserve has a number of programs to provide liquidity to banks if and when they need it. The program that they're talking about was started in 2021. So when you say record numbers, it's not necessarily like, this huge thing. But having said that, it's still the largest since then, and the total amounts are more than that I'm aware of has ever been requested in the past. Why is that a big deal? It's the easiest way, actually, to cover why that's a big deal. Let's start with Walmart. And what is liquidity? Liquidity is basically cash. It's money that you can spend on things. That's it. Anything else is not liquid. It may have value, but it's not easily tradable. A house is a good example. All right, you are Walmart. You have to pay your employees. The first thing you do is you find a bank that's going to hold your money until you have to pay your employees. Walmart uses a company called OnePay to distribute all its money to its employees. They have two banks that they use that hold all their money. These banks hold all the money of Walmart, the money that comes in, the money that goes out. It's called Coastal Community Bank and Lead Bank. They're actually partner banks, so they share information. It's almost like one bank. So for now, I'm just going to call it Coastal Community Bank because they're both essentially the same bank. So OnePay is not a bank, but they manage the comings and goings of payroll for you. There you go. So here's what happens. Every Walmart employee gets paid through OnePay, either a check or a EBT, however they're getting paid, and they can cash that check at any bank they want to. Now, the check was given to them by Coastal Community Bank. That's the name of the bank that the check wrote. And just like all of us, we do our banking at different banks. But if you give someone a check from your bank, they can cash it at theirs, even if it's not the same bank. When someone cashes a check, what happens? Well, they cash the check. The bank says, here's your money, or we'll put it in your account, or we'll just give you the cash. But now that bank's got a problem because it's just giving you cash, and all it's got is a slip of paper. At the end of the week, it takes all its slip of papers, goes to Coastal Community, and says, here are all the employees from Walmart who cashed their checks. We gave them all the cash. We want their money with interest. Now, it's only 1 week's worth of interest, but they're doing that every week of the year, 52 weeks a year. So these banks are giving away money that they don't actually have yet from their reserves. They have reserves. They just have the money at the bank. They give it away to people who give them the check, and then they turn the check over to the actual company that gives them that cash plus the interest for however long they held it. That's how it's done. Okay? Now, that bank then draws the money right out of the account from Walmart. But they have to pay the bank, so they pay the other bank, and they just say, here's the money, and they pay each bank that asks them the appropriate money when they get the checks. There you go. So there's two banks that need liquidity in this scenario. The first is where you're cashing your check. They need cash because they need to be able to give it to you when you give them the check. The second is Walmart's bank. Because if Walmart's bank doesn't have enough money to pay the other banks in a bank-to-bank transaction, those checks are worthless. This is what happened to GE, at the time, one of the most powerful and influential businesses in the 2008 crash. They had made enough money to make payroll, but their bank couldn't cover it. Meaning, when they handed out their payroll checks from Coastal Community Bank or whatever bank they used, you could go to your bank, but your bank couldn't cash it because the money wasn't there. The bank wasn't good for it. The bank didn't have the money to give it to you. If that happens once or twice, that's, bugs in the system. If it turns out an entire company can't pay its payroll, that's a problem, especially if, as in this case, GE had done nothing wrong. GE was paying the price for other people being speculative on the stock market. GE was a good, solid company, but their bank going under made it so they couldn't pay their employees anymore. And now if you worked for GE, you were working for free. So what happened last month? At the end of every month, banks tend to be at their shortest in terms of how much money they have. Why? Because they're paying everybody's paychecks, and all the paychecks are going out the door and getting cashed. The end of the month is the hardest time for any bank. If a bank is going to have problems, that's when it's going to go to the feds for help. And the feds have programs to help banks because they don't want banks to go under. So they give banks loans, usually through Treasury. I don't know if it's Treasury bonds or however they do it, but they give them loans. And they're short-term loans. The bank makes the payments, and then the next month the bank pays them back. October 31st the feds recorded the highest number of banks requesting financial support to pay off regular debts from regular businesses, not them doing crazy stuff. Pay off regular debts from regular businesses. More banks needed help than ever recorded before. First question is why? Well, it happened at the end of the month because if there's a problem, that's when it's going to happen. But why are banks not having enough money? The most likely cause, in my view, is the tariffs. And this is what we've talked about. This was one of the consequences we predicted when we talked about the tariffs, which is that businesses don't yet know how to pay these tariffs. Now, closing arguments in the tariffs just finished yesterday before the Supreme Court. Nobody knows how they're going to rule and whether they're going to rule that Trump can or cannot do it. There are reasons to think they may rule against him because big business, including Amazon, Target, Walmart, every major business has sued the Trump administration saying they want the tariff money back, that what he did was illegal and they're owed that money. Walmart itself has said, let me see if I can, the CEO of Walmart has said that he has deliberately tried not to pass on the cost of these tariffs to his customers because he doesn't want to lose customers. But he's running out of liquidity at the bank to be able to keep absorbing these costs. Ford already run out. That's why Ford is having issues building plants. They paid what, $2 billion in the first month of tariffs? So what we're seeing is every business is running out of liquidity. As the businesses run out of liquidity, the banks that hold their money also run out of liquidity. This means that they are depending on the Federal Reserve to make up the difference, at least in the short term. This means that either the tariffs get repealed very, very quickly, or we are on the cusp of probably a significant downward financial shift. And I mean significant. And that's what you would expect in this set of circumstances. And the fact that we have a record number of banks requesting financial aid from the Federal Reserve, which is delighted to help them, better than the alternative. That is a very bad sign. That's a sign that it's going to happen in months, maybe weeks. No, more than 4 weeks, less than 3 months, I would guess. Not being an economist, we'll have on an economist. Really quick, I'm going to update the races, and then I want to get, Azandering, your opinion on that. I don't know if you had heard about the Federal Reserve. We'll talk about that in a second. Again, Virginia House, the seat flipped for governor. It is now a Democratic. Abigail Spanberger has won, and then also Mikey Sherrill has won. The Democrats hold on to their seat, their governor's seat in New Jersey. The mayoral races, we've got independent Andre Dickens keeps his seat. He's an independent and easily kept his seat. In Buffalo, Sean Ryan has won. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That one's still too close to call. I don't know why Buffalo's mayor is still too close to call. Cincinnati, Aftab Preval, the incumbent, has also easily kept the seat. In Detroit, Mary Sheffield, who is nonpartisan, has won the mayoral race. Congratulations. In Jersey City, still too close to call. And let's see, Minneapolis, too close to call. New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani has won, now has 53% of the vote to Cuomo's 41%. Lastly, Corey O'Connor has won mayor for Pittsburgh. Get to the other questions. Alvin Bragg is reelected as Manhattan's district attorney. This is important because Bragg is Bragg is the first district attorney ever to convict a president, and a number of district attorneys have tried to sue him, and the failure rate has been high, both because Trump makes the cost of going after him prohibitive, and because by being president and having a favorable Supreme Court, he's managed to make himself almost king. He's immune to just about everything. But Alvin L. Bragg, who Trump has done everything he can to unseat, has kept his seat in New York as Manhattan's district attorney. Thank you, Titan. All right. So, any thoughts? Xander, I'm going to go over a couple of other ballot measures while you talk, so my attention may be split there for a minute. But any thoughts on the
way our financial systems work is a little skewed, and they're skewed in the most advantageous way for people more or less at the top. I'm going to start sounding almost like a socialist in this, but the way that we don't have particularly sound money in the United States. The monetary policy is kind of weird. They allow for fractional reserve banking, so the banks are only required to keep a fraction of the reserves in their actual bank for the amount of loans, etc., that they give out. So the cash reserves they have is less than their obligations on the money. So this exacerbates the problem that they just experienced with liquidity issues. And of course, this was a problem in 2008 as well. The Fed has the ability to essentially print money they don't actually print the money. We colloquially call it printing money because they're making up sums on balance sheets and giving out loans. They don't have to have any reserves whatsoever. As a matter of fact, they don't have any reserves whatsoever to cover them. They just make new money and give it out in loans, and then we can having a currency that isn't tethered to anything is, you're required to have to be able to do this. So the good news about this is that the Fed isn't bankrupt. The debt that's currently carried by the Fed is fairly easily absorbed. It's not particularly significant. So the Fed isn't in bad shape. There is liquidity issues with some of the other banks, and that could be causing problems. The Fed should be able to offset most of these problems unless things turned down very sharply, and there's a far more widespread issue of banks having the reserves necessary to actually transfer money between themselves, where the Fed would have to step in and take on a huge amount. But when you look at most of the banks that are having these kinds of problems, it doesn't amount to a significant amount of money in the eyes of the Fed and relative to what the Fed can do.
And by Fed, you mean the Federal Reserve Bank as
correct.
opposed to the federal government.
Correct. I should have been clear at the beginning. The Federal Reserve, called
When
shortly
someone's sitting
the
there,
Fed.
I don't want someone sitting there going, "You just said the Fed has enough money. We're like 30 trillion in debt." It's like,
Yeah.
no.
Now, the U.S. government, the federal government, they're not in a good position at all, because when you look at the amount of debt service that they have compared to their tax inflows, that's significant. When you look at the actual budget, the outflows of the federal government compared to the tax receipts that it's getting is what, 120%, 130% of their tax receipts that they're getting, their outflow is. So, that's not going to get any better at all. And the Federal Reserve, if there's any kind of hiccup in the system, may absolutely have to come in. Because even though the Fed controls what's called the overnight rate, which is the rate that banks can borrow at for fairly short-term overnight loans, even though the Fed has the ability to adjust those rates, they do all the time. You hear about the Fed adjusting rates. They had a rate cut or a rate increase. We're starting to see a lot of times the Fed uses this as a mechanism to help with the heating up or cooling down of the economy by moving rates up or down, which can increase, trickles out through several other things such as mortgage rates and things like that, especially T-bill rates, treasuries. So all of these things can kind of come back to that Fed rate, the Fed funds rate. However, the Fed funds rate isn't directly attached to all these other interest rates, and it is possible that even though the Fed can cut interest rates quite a bit, it can still push interest rates higher because we're still dealing with people. Excuse me. And people's desire to put money into some of these investment vehicles. And if they're not willing to do it, regardless of what the Fed does for trying to push down rates, they have a hard time affecting that. That's where we get what we traditionally called monetizing the debt. Only we came up with a new term for it because monetizing the debt is generally seen as bad. It's all kind of on the step to financial collapse. It's not sufficient to warrant a financial collapse. I mean, there's plenty of monetization of debts that work fine. But they didn't like using that term, so they came up with quantitative easing. So they try and push down interest rates, and they usually are dealing with treasuries. The biggest way that the Federal Reserve can affect the economy is they tend to dump a lot of economy into the federal government, and the federal government tends to distribute funds through different ways. And they do that often by purchasing debt from the government, because there isn't a strong bond market to go and purchase all of the treasuries the government needs to sell in order to service its debt and give the outflows that it wants. So the the Fed can go and step in and purchase those things and give the money that they need to. And thankfully, the Fed has been tightening. There were several rounds, 3, I believe, rounds of quantitative easing where they took on pretty massive amounts of debt in order to fund the federal government and get funds out there, especially through COVID, the end of the financial meltdown that we had. So the Fed itself isn't in a bad position. It's not in a good position, but it's not in a bad position and not a concerning position. So the Fed is going to be able to help with this. And if it keeps going the way that it is, it could start causing problems. But until there's a massive liquidity issue, similar to what happened in 2008, there's not where actual banks are are declaring bankruptcy. Essentially, they're going out of business. They have zero. This happened once. The Fed has instruments to deal with this, and they're a little bit better equipped to deal with it now. One of the advantages to having a fiat currency is you can do these things. So it's not helped by our fractional reserve system, but the fractional reserve system allows for a lot of investments to make a hell of a lot of money, not generally by the average American, but rather by bank CEOs and high dollar investors can make money off of that. So I don't like the system. We don't have a sound monetary policy. We certainly don't have sound fiscal responsibility from the federal government. And so when you have a shock such as the tariffs, where people are like, I don't exactly know how we're supposed to do this. We're paying a hell of a lot. And then do we just pass that on immediately? Most businesses are hesitant to pass that much of a cost directly onto the consumer that quickly because it can hurt them tremendously. And so they try to hold out until they kind of can't. And then once somebody breaks, kind of everybody breaks. And that's when you get price increases. The problem is the way that this has gone about. Tariffs are a tax on the country that imposed the tariffs because they're ultimately the ones that are going to have to pay it. And if you're going to try running tariffs or imposing tariffs to try and run the government, you're not doing it to protect a strategic industry that is critically important to the country. There are some good uses of tariffs. And the use of tariffs always comes with a cost. It's going to cost money. So you need to make sure that whatever industry that you're going to tariff actually needs it. I do not like the way that he's trying to wage economic war on other countries by using tariffs, because the United States imports, the trade deficit for the United States is huge. We produce very little in comparison to what we consume from other countries. So that trade discrepancy is quite large. It's the largest it's ever been in history. So we can run into problems when we're trying to tariff other countries when our own country is absolutely reliant on imports. So, and on top of that, the people who would ultimately end up paying these are also paying all the other taxes. None of the other taxes were removed. I would be willing to look at a tariff mechanism for funding the government if there was an equivalent reduction in say federal income taxes. But when you just add them on top of it, it's damaging to the economy, even when you're doing it in a strategically important industry that you must have remain in your own country. It's still damaging to the economy to do so. And I don't understand why Trump thinks this is going to work, because Austrian school economists,
Pick a school.
Yeah, pick a school.
Libertarian. Austrian is a branch of
mostly
libertarian.
Yeah. Keynesian economics. Maybe not the modern monetary theorists, because they don't think that's actually matter, that the government can spend whatever it wants to, and there's not going to be any problem with that. So maybe that school of economics, which still doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't understand their arguments, but every other class of or a school of economics that you can think of they all kind of agree. It's like one of the let's all get together and sing Kumbaya.
It's a rare.
Agree that tariffs are an imposition on the people of the country, and that they're generally economically depressive. So why is he trying? I mean, the one thing that he could coast through and really do well for the Republicans is to have a booming economy. Tariffs are going to depress that. There's no way around that, and it's causing lots and lots of problems, and it was just dumb.
And I'm It's always a little people, the people say, well, businesses will just pass on the price to pass on any additional cost to the consumers. Well, sort of. Nobody sets the price. The market sets the price. A business doesn't set their own prices. But some of this they have to pass on. There's absolutely no way to maintain, and others will. So the market will adjust, and the cost of everything will go up. It's been happening a lot slower than I thought, and let's see, Michael says, grocery price rise from the lack of labor is still yet to really hit the consumer. Exactly. And there's always a lag. It's just the lag has been a bit longer than I had thought. And that frustrates me because while I don't want it to hit, the sooner it hits, the sooner people can start doing something about it. Having said that, NBC News is declaring that Democrats have swept every single race tonight. They're saying that in every case where a Democrat was going up against a Republican, the Democrat won. 3 seats have been flipped. Is it 2 governors? 1 governor, 1 mayoral, and 1 lieutenant governor. These seats have been flipped, and the rest, the rest stayed with the Democratic candidate. So, is this huge? It's bigger than it looks, because while it's not a lot, you'd expect at least 1 Republican to win somewhere, and none have, and 1 was running against a socialist, which you'd think would be a problem even in New York, at a Muslim socialist in New York. And he got beat by at least 10 points. So Trump has, as always, got the answer to how and why this happened. But it has now been acknowledged by several. CNN is now saying this too. It's a sweep. That every single contest, there were independent wins. I didn't see any Democrats on the ballot in those, but they're talking Democrat versus Republican. Democrats swept every single race. Trump has tweeted. Has tweeted out, quote, Trump wasn't on the ballot and the shutdown. We're the 2 reasons that the Republicans lost the election tonight. We're okay. The 2 reasons that Republicans lost, according to pollsters. First of all, the arrogance of the guy. Trump wasn't on the ballot. Well, if Trump had been running for the governor of New Jersey, the mayor of Buffalo, and the Supreme Court justice seat for number 2 in Pennsylvania, if he had been running for those, why not just have John? Trump seems to be proposing that he needs to be on the ballot for every race in every state in the country. So Trump wasn't on the ballot is apparently one of the reasons, according to Trump and the pollsters. These pollsters, are they in the room with us now? Trump wasn't on the ballot, so that was the first one, and the shutdown. Yeah, I'm curious why people blame the Republicans for the shutdown. And I wouldn't be bragging about that. I wouldn't be sitting there going, the shutdown is why we lost the elections. Yeah, that is why you lost the elections. No, at least that's one of the reasons. So Trump has responded, and it's clear by this point, and this is a phenomenally good sign, because at this point, Republicans have 2 choices. They can turn around and find a way to start getting, and there is an implosion happening in the Democratic circles right now. Nick Fuentes went on with, oh dear Lord, Tucker Carlson, and they spoke a while about, and Tucker Carlson was talking about nobody should support Jews for any reason, or support Israel, I think he said, for any reason. Obviously, Israel has been conducting a massive genocide. Netanyahu has been indicted on war crimes for very good reason. And, I understand the sentiment, but you have to be very careful when you say that, because that leads very quickly to where Nick Fuentes took it, which was to say, oh, God, yeah, no, it's just Jews in general you shouldn't support, let alone Israel, and the Holocaust never happened, and all of this other stuff. And apparently, I know he's a Holocaust denier, but apparently he actually did it on the show and didn't get significant pushback from Tucker Carlson.
This surprises you?
A little, because Tucker Carlson's been almost reasonable for the last couple of days. But here's the interesting thing. The head of the Heritage Foundation came out and defended Tucker Carlson, and most of the Heritage Foundation, A, hates him for throwing MAGA under the bus recently, and B, a number of them are Jewish. So, this has caused a huge rift in the Heritage Foundation, and there is very little that could benefit this country more than the collapse of the Heritage Foundation, which it's in no danger of doing. I'm just proposing that this is still a good thing. So with Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes teaming up, and apparently the entire, I haven't seen it, I don't want to see it, I probably should, but was all neo-Nazi garbage. And my suspicion is Tucker Carlson's not stupid. There are plenty of people on that side who are stupid. Carlson isn't one of them by a long shot. And he knows how to keep his white supremacist values in check, and he knows when to do it. But when he's on with a young kid who's even more white supremacist than he is, I think it draws it out of him. So at any rate, they're going at it. Marjorie Taylor Greene is going at it, and it looks like the Epstein files are going to cause a huge headache, because once that, the 60th signature gets on, which it's going to do at some point, everybody on the floor is going to have to vote either for or against the release of the Epstein files. I don't think they're going to get released. Even if they vote for, they're passing a law, which means that Trump has to sign it. You think he's going to sign it or not? If he doesn't sign it, then you got to get a 2/3 majority. That ain't going to happen. But you get every congressman on the record as being for or against the release of the Epstein files. That's huge. So either they have to abandon Trump, they have to start moving in the right direction, or stay on course, knowing they're going into the midterms with what just happened here, which was a complete sweep. They just got shellacked. The other interesting one is, Pennsylvania had a Supreme Court justice, two Supreme Court justices who were up for getting tossed. I don't know if it was impeachment or not. The question was, should they retain their seat? The Democrat justices have all won, meaning that it will retain its Democratic majority there with the Supreme Court. So, where the Supreme Court, where a state Supreme Court was up for having new justices, the Democrats maintained their majority there. They didn't lose a single seat. So just a complete, utter sweep. Marjorie Taylor Greene came out today and said that the reason the Republicans were going to get wiped out was because they were not supporting Obamacare. Holy smoke. Marjorie Taylor Greene said that Republicans were going to get smoked because they weren't supporting Obamacare. And she has said that she's got children. They're going to see their premiums go up 200%. She said this is the elephant in the room that nobody's talking about, and that she participated in a call with the caucus in which the caucus did exactly what Democrats have been accusing them of for a very long time. To have a leading Republican say this out loud is stunning. She said that the Republicans don't have a plan. She said their only plan is we hate Obamacare. But you can't get the details of the plan because there is none. And they're lying, and they keep saying that we've got a plan, we've got a plan. We don't have a plan. They don't have the details. Apparently, I'd need to be in a skiff. So, which goes to what you said earlier, which is she may be smarter than she comes across because she used the word skiff correctly. I'd need to be in a skiff to get any details. They won't give me the details. All they give me is these sweeping principles. It's like Obamacare is at least a plan. It's broken, but it's a plan. To have Marjorie Taylor Greene say that, this was Speaker Johnson's response to Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Weekend as open enrollment began for Obamacare. People are seeing a change in their premiums, essentially, if these subsidies that are set to expire at the end of the year are not changed, renewed, handled in some way. Last time you were here, we talked about Congresswoman who had some real frustrations about this. Where is the Republican plan? I know you two had talked. Well, she posted this on X this week. She says, Johnson said he's got ideas and pages of policy ideas and committees of jurisdiction are working on it, but he refused to give one policy proposal to our GOP conference on our own conference call. Apparently, I have to go into a skiff, referencing a protected intel sharing type place, to find out the Republican health care plan. And there are a lot of exclamation points there.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about that. I mean, that's absurd. Obviously, we're not going to be on a conference call explaining all of our plans and strategies.
Why not? Why aren't they going to be?
I just wanted to ask that. And I was like, I'm not going to interrupt the video, but I want to. Why? This is your conference call that you should be telling all of your people so that they can get out there and get on point for messaging. And you're not going to tell them? I mean, it doesn't even sound like you have ideas or penumbras. I think I mispronounced that. Penumbras of a plan. It's like you've got nothing here. That I don't buy for a second that if you actually had decent policy proposals that you wouldn't tell your own damn caucus so they can get out there on point with messaging saying, no, you want to pick us because look, here's our plan for fixing this. They're not interested in fixing it. They're interested in using it as a wedge issue to try and run and rally their support. They have no interest in actually fixing healthcare.
Yep. And this was obviously we're not going to tell anyone. If we have a plan, obviously we're not going to tell anyone. I couldn't believe he said that. The other one that he said that was clearly a mistake. So I should have kept it anyway. I should have brought it in because the rest was worthy. But he was talking about let's see, because he got called out on the he was being called out on how can you blame the Democrats for this when you can either end the filibuster or just agree to these extensions and move forward. And he said, well, they'll tell you it's our fault for all of these reasons, but what you need to do is ignore the facts and focus on the fact that they keep refusing a clean bill. And he actually says you have to ignore the facts. And I was just like, whoa, that was a little on the nose.
Well, and much like some of the issues that I had with the COVID response, where I'm like, okay, they're splitting the policies down the center. It's like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. It's like you need to pick a policy and go with it. It's like you're either shutting everything down, or you need to keep everything open and economy as normal, and accept that there are consequences for both of those actions. But no, you want to try and do a half-ass job one way or the other, or both sides, and you're going to end up with the worst of everything. And healthcare is kind of the same way. And Obamacare was a bit of a same issue. It's like they needed to try and get something in, and they tried to make it better. And then, of course, the mandate got defunded. And I'm like, okay, we're sliding directly into that same issue. It's like you're either going to do a single payer system, like I think every other industrialized nation on earth, or you're going to go 100% free market, get the damn government completely out of it. Pick one, because trying to do both ends up with a system that's worse than either of those other two.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, you know, and you're going to be blamed for it because your fingers are all over this. It's like, it's frustrating. It's like, pick one, implement it, and if it's not working or have terrible outcomes, then recognize that, hey, this isn't working. Let's pivot and try the other one. I am so sick of everybody trying to stay entrenched in all of these things, and they're trying to implement half-assed policies that just hurt everyone. It's not working for just about anyone. I guess if you're wealthy, but if you're wealthy enough, you can just go pay for your own damn health care. And And why bother with insurance at all? It's self-insure. So yeah, this is really frustrating because, again, they're half-assing these policies, and it's hurting real Americans, and they're getting very upset, especially with their health care.
I have a couple of gonna go over the ballot initiatives. We've got a couple to go over. We're gonna see if any of the mayoral races have finished. We still don't know about Prop 40, which is, I think, the single most important measure out there. But for one thing, which is what percentage do Democrats win when it's Dems versus Republicans? And tonight it appears to be 100%. 1 year from now, we will be back doing this, but we will be doing this with senators and congressmen and governors across the entire, it's Prop 50, thank you, country. And the Dems, if the Dems win the House and the Senate, there's an impeachment possibility. But that notwithstanding, if they win the House, that's the key. If they win the House, they can bring Trump's agenda to the pace of a snail. They probably can't stop it, but they can. The amount at which the degree to which he's been able to unravel U.S. institutions has been absolutely shocking. And it's because Johnson is, for all intents and purposes, a loyal member of the executive branch, which he's not supposed to be. He is. He does exactly what he's told by Trump, no matter how ludicrous. And he says and repeats and echoes anything Trump says, no matter how ludicrous, no matter how he says it. You're not supposed to have basically the head of the executive controlling the Speaker of the House. That is the antithesis of how this country operates. Sister Porpoise, $5.12. Math CV teacher, Math CS teacher here. Two wrongs may not make a right, but two negatives multiplied definitely make a positive. That's a good point. So if we multiply, that's okay. I like this plan. So if we multiply, instead of adding unethical actions together, we multiply and become as unethical as possible. We would be ethical. In time is going to have to update its.
That's about a philosophy discussion if I've ever heard one. So why is it bad to eat babies?
So why is it bad to eat? That's a good question. There's another one I won't go into, but actually there's I'm going to get into one. Thank you, Titan. I saw the thumbnail on that. I haven't seen it yet. I'll get to it because that's important. That was one I failed to mention when we were talking about with the banks and the instability and what people think is going to happen with the market. It's a tech problem. Thank you. I'll get to it. Sinister Porpoise, $2. What type of dinosaur is a philosophy? What type? going to tell my solipsism joke because that one takes too long anyway, and everyone's heard it. But what was the
Do
other
you think
joke?
Esaurus?
Do you think it's? Oh, do you think it's Saurus? There. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think you're right, Titan. Jester, $5. National security can be talked about on Signal, but healthcare, we might need a skiff for that. Well, that's probably the problem. I think we need to get Hegseth in there working on the Republican proposals for healthcare, and then everybody's going to know what they are. UTV and Ham, one gifted membership. Thank you very much for that. We really appreciate that. You're just solid, reliable, always here, giving us a hand. I appreciate it. Let me check. So, Titan just sent me an article, and it's on, from Francis 24, which is a reputable source. Asian markets tumble as tech bubble fears grow. Now, there's concerns about a tech bubble for a couple of reasons. NVIDIA is the biggest single reason. NVIDIA produces graphics cards, as most of you know. Graphics cards, as most of you, I don't know how many of you know. If you know anything about computers, you know that NVIDIA produces graphics cards. And they produce a lot of other stuff. That's their primary thing, is graphics cards. Now, graphics cards have to do a lot of floating point math. That's math with a decimal place. That's math where there's a decimal place and any number of significant figures behind that decimal place. Graphics requires significant decimal place work. So that's why there's a separate, your CPU on your computer is great at 2 plus 2, 4 plus 4, and regular integers. It does integers just fine, but when there's a decimal, it slows down. It slows down dramatically. GPUs are CPUs, just like the computer CPU, except they are engineered specifically to deal with floating point mathematics. The reason that's important is because Bitcoin is a floating point calculation. So people very quickly stopped just using regular computers and just started using graphics cards to generate Bitcoin. AI also is a floating point calculations. All the mathematics requires floating point calculations, and that means graphics cards. So NVIDIA, if you look at, in fact, that's the next time fractions kill it. Yep, absolutely. I mean, like thousands to one slowdown. It's 1,000 times longer to calculate 0.1 plus 0.1 than it is to calculate 1 plus 1. So anyways. So AI and Bitcoin need graphics cards. So all of a sudden, the demand for graphics cards, a graphics card today costs more than most computers did a couple years ago. Just one high-end graphics card. So, and the reason is because all the chips are now wanted for AI and for Bitcoin mining or any digital cryptocurrency. So, there is a concern that AI has started to actually plateau. That seems counterintuitive. It's been taking off so fast. Yeah, but technology takes off real fast and then it plateaus. There's only so far you can go. We still dig holes with shovels. At any rate, the NVIDIA's price, I don't remember what it is now, but it's one of the highest. It may actually have hit the highest valuation of any company in history. It's really high, and the thinking is it's higher than is sustainable. So there's a concern of a tech bubble for that reason. Also, Trump's tariffs. This has slowed down the importation of technology into the U.S. Also, the way Trump has been dealing with other countries, especially China, has given the impression that he may not defend or care about Taiwan in any meaningful sense. That's one reason why we've talked about sending, and I think we've sent a number of ships to just south of Taiwan to help defend Taiwan against bombardment. But the reality is this is a good time for China to try to take Taiwan. If they do that, right now China doesn't have a lot of boats that can land on Taiwan and have infantry land there. Their best option is bombardment. If they do that, they destroy the number one chip manufacturer on the planet. Taiwan makes a huge percentage of our chips. So all of these things combined, plus the tariffs and what we were talking about with the bank earlier. So we talked not that long ago about the Federal Reserve Bank making a record number of liquidity loans to other banks. The idea is that the market as a whole, and or at least the technology aspect of it, may be in a very significant bubble that's about to burst. So right now, all U.S. markets are closed, but Asian markets appear to be, it's Wednesday, and there is a very sharp sell-off as investors get concerned about specifically those and others. There's a large number of reasons to be concerned about that technology may just be a bubble right now. And there are people who say, well, obviously that can't be true. That's what they said about the dot-com bubble. I remember that bubble real well. And it was just so obvious that dot-coms were the next thing. And everybody was and everybody's saying AI and cryptocurrency are the next thing. If we wake up tomorrow and decide we're not as impressed with AI as we used to be, and it's not this shiny new toy anymore, and we have our concerns about whatever we're concerned about, and we decide that cryptocurrency is a really dumb idea, the value of NVIDIA's stock is going to, it's gone up over tenfold over the last 5 years. Tenfold over the last 5 years. But that's because of cryptocurrency and AI. We'll see. The other problem is it's very hard to build a crypto farm or an AI farm because they generate a tremendous amount of heat. You might have to put them in a place that, I don't know, Xandri, can you think of any places that are cold? You could call it cold land. You wouldn't want to call it Iceland because that Iceland is green. But a land that's cold where you could put server farms because nobody lives there.
Well, you can't really call Iceland green because we already have a green land. So,
yeah, Iceland. That's one of the theories, is that he also wants Iceland because it would be a lot cheaper to build server farms there because it's a lot easier to cool. You just run outside air right through just run a fan through. You don't need compressors. You don't need squat. That cuts down some of the energy. The cooling takes a lot of energy, but the real energy is obviously the CPU. They get hot. Anyways, so thank you for that. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll check on the Asian markets, I think, before we go down for the night. At this point in 10 minutes, Prop 50 the polls close in
10 minutes?
Yes, in 10 minutes, I think the polls close in California, if I've got that right. It closes at 8? Yeah, so it's 8 Pacific. So in 10 minutes, the polls close. Let's take a look and see if we've got any incoming data. They say wait, for a while, but the exit polls are gonna have a lot. Give me a second. So let's see. What was that? All right. So for those of you just joining us, it's actually been kind of a weird day. There was a plane crash in Louisiana. In Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky. There was a plane crash. It was a UPS plane. It damaged a huge number of buildings. The most initial estimate was as many as 200 people injured. However, more than 200 people injured. However, most of the buildings were empty because it's a week. Sorry, it's not a weekend. It was after hours. They closed. So we don't know the number of casualties or injuries yet. It's impossible to imagine any of the crew survived. So that there was and this is, by the way, this is our normal in time scheduling. So you're getting in time with the coverage of the fest. It's a little bit of an unusual situation, as there happens to be the election at the same time as in time would normally air, and we wanted to cover the federal closure, the closing of the federal government, which today ties the previous record set by first-term President Donald Trump. So tomorrow we will be in record territory. The Transportation Secretary has said that if this continues another week, he's going to start having to close off major sections of airspace. Now, they used to fly before the FCC. They used to fly on visual. I don't, especially since most airplanes, I think, actually have some form of radar on board. I could be wrong. Again, Xander, you'd probably know better than I would.
Yes, because flying on visual has worked so well in the recent past.
Okay.
I mean,
well,
not like flying on visual. You could ever have like a helicopter fly right into a passenger jet and cause a problem.
Fair point, but and the reason they don't do visual anymore is because the air is too. But I'm not talking commercial airliners, but closing the airspace is a very specific terminology. It's like, okay, we're going to close the airspace. Well, wait a minute. So no, I mean, our emergency helicopter is going to be allowed, medevac, life flight. I assume it's not closed to the military.
Nothing's ever closed to the military.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't. So it does feel punitive, but I know how and why. The reality is they're out of air traffic controllers. They're out of air traffic controllers, and once they start closing, the air traffic controllers that are left, half of them are going to sit there and bail because they're like, well, everybody's bailing, so I'm out, and the remaining half will stay until they've died of exhaustion, because they're just the kind of human being that is not going to give up. They've said they're going to do it, and that's their job. And that's going to be enough to run maybe 10% of the nation's airports. So starting next week at this time, he is saying that he's going to have to close the airspace over the United States, huge swaths of it. That will also, by the way, impact trade, because there's only so many places that you can actually bring, goods into this country. We're having problems with SNAP. Those don't look like they're resolved. It's a big shock. A judge told Trump that he's going to fund SNAP. He said he'll fund it 50%. And then the latest tweet from him just like a couple hours ago, not even, I think, he's just like, well, it's the Dems' fault, so the judge can go blame the Dems. Oh, which brings me to... This is, oh my God. I am so embarrassed to be an American at this point. The White House has created a page for Democrats, just for Democrats. If you are a Democrat, the White House now has a page for you. This is not a joke. This I got earlier today from the White House itself. I checked because I was just like, there's no way this is it. This is it. My safe space, a place for Dems. Now, yeah. It's weird having a truly petulant leader. I mean, I remember not having any real respect for George Bush, who, in my view, was an idiot. But he was actually a reasonably good-natured guy. He couldn't figure out why nobody liked him. And he wasn't petulant. He wasn't. This is unbelievable. So this is whitehouse.com / I think it's either /Dems or / my safe space. It's real. It's on the whitehouse.gov website. This is the bottom half of it. You can see there's Mexican sombreros. Blurbs. Hey, we're Democrats in the House and Senate. We love DEI, transgender for everyone, and handing out taxpayer benefits to illegal immigrants. We couldn't care less if our men and women in uniform get paid or if our neighborhoods are safe. We just love playing politics with people's livelihoods. Heroes, anyone who identifies as a radical leftist, transnational gangs, and illegal immigrants who I'd like to meet. Honestly, we could go meet enough members of Antifa or we couldn't meet enough members of Antifa or illegal immigrants. They're just so awesome. Top friends with the Joe Biden auto pen, the real Chucky. This is insane. This is the White House website. Again, I saw this. I was told it was real by a source I trust. I said, you're full of shit. I still didn't believe them. They said, no, it's real. I followed the link. It's there. That's the White House website. Yeah.
Speaking of George W.
Yes, sir.
Did we cover the death of Dick Cheney yesterday? Arguably the most powerful vice president, arguably more powerful than the actual president, Dick Cheney. Passed away yesterday at the age of 84.
The only thing I mentioned about it, I used it to segue into Osama bin Laden and the attacks because, and this is, if you go to our Discord, in the production notes for this show, you will find the actual page, not a reproduction. It's a picture of the actual page from the New York Times' archives of the reporting on the deal that Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney made under George H.W. Bush with Saudi Arabia for $21 billion, which ultimately led to A, favorable OPEC veto power and the economic boom of the 90s, and B, 9/11 and the extreme hatred by the citizens, not the government. Well, the government doesn't like us much either, but of Saudi Arabia, and to the New Deal where we are selling them F-35s, because that couldn't possibly go wrong. I think that's actually where you came in, but yes, it started on Cheney, but I did not mention anything else. I agree with you, most powerful vice president in history, and at the time probably easily more powerful than the president.
I was just wondering, since you had brought him up, I missed that first part, so. Just kind of an aside, I mean, of all of the things that are going on, the death of Dick Cheney should be noted just because of the outsized impact Dick Cheney had in politics.
Well, and he ran Halliburton, and I've spoken to a lot of people who went to Iraq. Commander McMillan, who was in charge of, he was the commander in charge of staging for the U.S. military in Iraq out of Kuwait. And they all sit there, and he was like, okay, we'll have barracks, we'll have the Kuwaiti harbor was not capable of fueling a aircraft carrier, and it needed to be. And he said, we know how to fix this. We can fix this. We will have barracks, protection, the whole 9 yards up in 2 weeks. And in 6 weeks, we will be able to have an aircraft carrier fuel here, and we'll be good. And Dick Cheney himself sent him a letter saying, no, you're going to stand down. You're not going to do any of that. He's just like, I'm the head of logistics. We've practiced how to do this in the desert for these kinds of missions. Let us do our job. Said, no, we're going to send it to private contractors. So aside from Blackwater going out as a private military group that was getting paid 10 times more than our military, getting cushy jobs for the most part, aside from that, Halliburton was sent out there, and 2 years later hadn't updated the port or finished the barracks. But they had secured all the oil. That's what Halliburton was an expert in. Halliburton, and they're the ones who made the blowout preventer that failed, and the cement that failed on Deepwater Horizon, causing the worst environmental disaster in the Gulf of Mexico. So no, we haven't really talked about Dick Cheney. I couldn't think of anything to say.
Yeah, of course. All the things that he did. Argue. I mean, I guess you could argue that he had a negative impact on the world, but it's significant.
It was
But
absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
He was retired and he passed away, and noted. Got a few other more worrisome things going on at the moment.
Yeah, well, and I think it's he was a force to be reckoned with. I like what Lewis Black said about him, because Lewis Black had to do the correspondence dinner, and in doing the correspondence dinner, he was going to make fun of Dick Cheney and do all this other stuff. And he said he was sitting down next to Dick Cheney during the event. Said never in my life have I sat so close to evil. And that sounds about right. Dick Cheney was probably a psychopath or sociopath. Again, very successful. Usually got what he wanted. Him being the equating of him to Darth Vader, I always thought was appropriate. Maybe, but very cynical.
He was pretty hardcore about some stuff, and I think that he had some dirt on people, and I think that he invested money into investigations to try and get leverage against people. And I'm half convinced that his quote unquote hunting accident where he shot somebody was a intimidation factor and not just an accident. But I guess we'll probably never know. He was a bit hardcore.
Yeah, I remember.
Ruthless.
Yes, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. I remember having a hearing that Dick Cheney had shot someone in the face, and he had shot, I think it was the secretary of one of the lower secretaries, and they'd gone duck hunting together, and so he had a shotgun. It was fortunately loaded with pellets instead of, and well, I guess regular shotgun's loaded with pellets anyway, but it wasn't, the force wasn't, and you could see the guy's face. He had just been the whole side of his face peppered with these pellets. And they had to go into his skin and pull him out in the whole 9 yards. But I remember saying to myself, it's sort of like, well, if somebody was going to say to me, a member of this government is going to shoot another member of this government in the face with a shotgun, who's going to do it? Cheney? It's Cheney. I don't know who he's going to shoot, but it's Cheney. That one was easy enough. All right, I'm gonna go check on some of these updates.
If there's any update on Prop 50.
Yeah, I want to know about Prop 50. We do know now 7 have been killed and 11 injured in the UPS plane crash. Everybody for at least a mile has been told to shelter in place because massively toxic fumes have been coming out. Stand by one.
Definitely subject to
CNN
as
is
we learn more.
CNN is projecting that Prop 50 will pass. California will approve the redistricting push to create much more Democratic-friendly U.S. House districts. That's CNN predicting the passing of Prop 50. This is the proposition by Gavin Newsome, where Gavin Newsome essentially in a Twitter fight with Governor Greg Abbott told Governor Abbott, for every district that you turn from blue to red by gerrymandering, we will turn a district from red to blue in our state. If you turn 5, we'll turn 5. Now, this was a bold claim, and in my view, a stupid claim, because you do have to, the way California works, you have to have a separate proposition, and if you lose something like this, you lose a tremendous amount of credibility. This is the strongest, this is the biggest political gamble Newsom has ever made, saying that he could convince California to accept Prop 50 that would create 5 new seats for the Democratic Party by stripping 5 Republican seats from the U.S. House of Representatives. CNN is projecting it worked, and that Newsom's plan has been approved by the people of California, and they will get a special commission to redistrict and give Democrats another 5 seats, thereby negating the 5 gained by lost by Texas. Now, Texas has asked other states to help as soon as, and this is predictable, this is how this shit happens, which is as soon as California said that, they asked a number of other states to assist in doing that. A few other states have redistricted, and 1 or 2 Democratic seats have been changed to Republican seats. This is unprecedented in our country's history. I mean, there's always been gerrymandering, but gerrymandering on demand? Holy
shit. Rest in peace, the appearance of propriety and fairness in districting. Now they're just coming straight out and saying it blatantly. We're literally jiggering it to or manipulating it. I guess that would be a better term. Yeah. Manipulating it to have what we want. They're not even hiding it anymore.
Yeah, well, and he even said that. He said the only reason we're redistricting this is to get the extra seats. And then somebody, like, during the debate process, somebody accused them of doing that, and they said, "Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing." It's like, oh shit! It's like, I don't think there are any legal consequences for. I think they could just do it for any reason. So at this point, they're like, "What? We're too tired to lie." CNN projection: California will approve redistricting push. I'll read that in a second. Yes.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I mean, a lot of kind of modern society runs off of the appearance of things. I mean, if you really dug into it, I have a feeling that, there's a lot of miscarriages of justice, for example. There's probably a lot of corruption, a lot of rural areas where the good old boys run the town with the sheriff, and, you could get railroaded if you cross them sideways. There's plenty of stories like that, and there's anecdotes of things like that, but the general kind of perception of everything was that, hey, we have a mostly fair justice system, a mostly blind justice system. We have a mostly somewhat, I hate to say well-run, but maybe not just banana republic levels of corruption. Sure, maybe there's a little, but we're still a decent republic. And all of that's just going out the window. I mean, blinders are being ripped off left and right. And that's, I think, what's going to sink us, is people are going to lose any faith in government, in the leadership. They're going to lose faith in our justice system. And that's what's going to cause us to fall apart.
Yeah, and if that's why, if the vote, because the purchase of Dominion Systems by, what was the one we already knew was corrupt and owned by the Republican, I forget, but the purpose of the purchasing of Dominion voting systems, which, if I recall, is involved in 70% of every ballot cast in the United States. They're either in the software or in the actual hardware. By a Republican who is buddies with Trump and said that he will do, or said that the nation needs Trump to win again. That doesn't, I think they've changed it now to liberty voting, but it's like, yeah, that doesn't, if there's a whiff of impropriety from the right, I think we're going to have problems. I think
Well, and I
think,
also I worry a little bit, as Titan was mentioning, accelerationist behaviors. I can agree that sometimes you absolutely need to fight fire with fire. I just worry that the forest is going to get burned down in the process, and I don't know how you avoid it. I've said before, I don't know how we get out of this. I don't know if there is a solution to this. But my biggest concern is, they're not even hiding any of this stuff anymore, or not hiding, but trying to couch it more politically correctly. I mean, they're coming straight out, and Texas coming straight out. We're going to redistrict and do this, and then another state comes back. Well, if you do this, we're going to pass this, and we're going to redistrict to try and offset that. And just the casual, blatant mention of these things. I worry that things are going to continue to. I just forgot the word I wanted to use.
Sorry,
They're going to it's going to escalate. That's the word I wanted. That these different tactics are going to start escalating, and eventually nobody's going to believe we're anything but a banana republic, and that can lead to bad things. I don't see nice cushy times ahead for the United States.
Yeah, I think we're going to have some difficult times, and there's going to have to be some reckoning with the hard partying that we've done as a country. So for those of you just joining us, where we stand now is this. In New York, Mamdani has won the mayoral race, and he is going to be the first Muslim and the first socialist mayor of New York City. That was one of the most interesting ones that we were covering. Prop 50, which is the California proposition to deliberately gerrymander and conspicuously gerrymander California to convert with the deliberate intention of converting 5 Republican congressional seats to 5 Democratic congressional seats. Hasn't been approved, but CNN projects will be approved, and is right now ahead by a significant margin, but they're projecting that it will be approved. Meanwhile, Reuters is saying that South Korea is experiencing a 6.2% plunge in their markets, while the Nikkei is down 7% from yesterday's record high. We did talk also why there were highs, and I won't go back into that. Bitcoin and gold appeared to recover and then experienced their own massive sell-off. And the CEOs are right now questioning the ability of any sort of rally on Wall Street. So Wall Street will be opening today. I think the opening bell's at 9. And I haven't looked at the futures yet, but my suspicion is they're probably low. Well, but I mean, the Nikkei coming down 7. What to expect, and we'll cover it tomorrow if it happens. But if we see a huge sell-off, there will be various triggers that will start at various points. The idea behind these triggers is to stop all trading and give people a chance to take a breath. The theory is that some of our worst economic times have been caused by people panicking, and when cooler heads could have prevented it. That's probably true. These triggers certainly seem to have helped in the past when they've gone, so we'll see what they do. But if there's any significant sell-off and you see that the market either closes for, I think the first trigger is 15 minutes, the next trigger is an hour, the next trigger is the whole day. That's what happened, and again, we will go live if that happens. We do thank you for joining us. It's been a long night. There are, what was the, there's a number of general assemblymen who have to be elected in various districts. In the smaller races, the Democrats do appear to be largely winning. Some Republicans have won those, but in every major election, the Democrats have swept it. That's every election for governor, every election for mayor, and also special elections on judges. The Democrats have won all of them. So, and they won Prop 50, which was Newsom's gambit to redistrict California to combat, what's his name, Governor Greg Abbott's redistricting. My suspicion is that Governor Newsome just announced his run for president of the United States. He didn't, you're not going to see him put that on Twitter. It's too early. But a win like this, he's going to be the front runner. This was wow. He's going to run. He's going to run. We already knew it by watching his tweets and so on and so forth. But if he lost this, he'd have to think about it. This was quite a coup. So congratulations to Governor Newsome, and we will see you in the primaries, because he's going to be the odds-on favorite. Let me quickly check the live chat, see if I missed anything. All right, any final thoughts before we go, Xandering?
We are living in interesting times.
I actually barred you from saying that, did I? And yes, we are. Oh, God, I was prepping the show, and I was just like, if it wasn't for the election, we'd be talking Marjorie Taylor Greene, this, and this. And the Epstein files still really do need to be talked about. In that interview, Johnson got hit pretty hard with his refusal to seat the last remaining Democratic representative that would allow that Epstein vote to happen. So he's going to have to do it at some point. He's just hoping. But this is, for those of you interested in knowing what to do next, keep an eye on how the Republicans respond to this, because they've got a very big problem. There's internal fighting between Marjorie Taylor Greene, between Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, and the people who do support them and the people who don't. And the number of Nazi, propaganda. Somebody had pointed out that they may have a white nationalist / Nazi problem. It was a, what was it? It was, who pointed that out? It was a newscaster. No, it wasn't. I'm sorry. It was somebody on the right. It was somebody, I think, at the Heritage Foundation who said, look, the reason people keep finding Nazi propaganda on the desks of the people that we support and who support us and that we work with is because there's a disproportionate number of Nazis here. And we need to fix that, because we can't be the Nazi party. It was nice to see the voice of reason having said that. Good luck actually fixing it and getting anyone who's gonna help you do that. Yeah, between all of that, I think it's about time that they're not back on their heels, but it really is nice to see them start to have some problems of their own. All right, so we are going to do a raid, and we're going to send you guys all off to Riverboat Jack, who is having an election night blowout. The age of Mamdani is here. And it is something to celebrate. That's you know what? We live in a country.
Even
yes.
me, who is a fiscal conservative, fiscal monetary conservative, socially liberal, and libertarian, and I guess foundational constitutionalist for the role and scope of the federal government. Even I am excited to see Mamdani win because it's a outside of the status quo. They're trying something different. What is that? Who said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? And we've been electing the same pool of politicians over and over again, and we've somehow expected a different result. Well, then we elected Trump, and now things went crazy, and now we're electing Mamdani, self-professed socialist with some very interesting policies. So things are starting to change, at least, and whether they're going to change for the better, I'm personally very interested to see how his policies work out in New York City, because either they will work and it will be the first time socialism has actually worked in the real world, and we'll have an example to point to and maybe a guide to try and work from, or they'll fail miserably and we can point to it and say this probably isn't the way we should go. So either way, I think that it's a win.
After watching and remembering all the arguments over the 9/11 mosque and people lost their minds, and nobody after all of that they've elected I think he's Sunni. Yeah, he's a Sunni Muslim. It's nice to see, and he looks like a genuinely good guy. Hopefully he is. We'll find out. All right. Well, this has been In Time. The rundown.
Thing.
Yes, sir.
Just that Jester said, don't trust Isandering with your money. Got it. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't trust me with your money, because if you give me your money, I'm going to go spend it on things. So
he's honest about
it. Much better to send it to Nick, where it will actually go to the furtherment of the show. You send it to me, and I'm going to buy some piece of shiny metal to bolt on my truck somewhere, so it's pretty.
Super chat for the show. We'll do the background, or we'll hook you up. All right. Thank you guys all so much. Thank you to everyone who has supported us, and we look forward to our next scheduled show. Of course, is Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, with Commander Lance McMillan. I am dying to get his take on this. It's been a busy. It's been a busy day. Just today, the stuff that's gone on, and if you're a Democrat, do me a favor, don't exhale. Don't just sit there and go, oh, wow, we finally did. Yeah, we got a major victory here. I say we. I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. But everybody who opposes Trump and who doesn't like what's going on got a major victory today. Now's the time to push harder. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you very soon, I'm sure. Have a good